Okay, you can do this. Just jump. Are you jump peeking like this? That is definitely not the most optimal way. If you simply alt look, tap W and S, you can go back and forth behind your barricade, showing much less of yourself compared to jump peeking and being the easiest headshot target ever. Now, that alt look combined shouldn't just be used for jiggle peeking. You should get used to constantly, when you're playing Rust, being a paranoid schizophrenic. You want to be alt looking everywhere. Never just run in a straight line thinking that you're safe and that no one's trailing you, because one simple alt look could reveal a player hiding in the corner or chasing you from afar. Here's some proper beginner tips. If you're making a simple 1x2, ignore mine, they're kind of conjoined here. The absolute best way you can orientate your airlock doors is making sure when you build the second door, you want to make it so it's on the right side of your triangle here. This means if you go on the outside here and we leave our first door open, this makes a complete airlock and they can't even get into this triangle foundation. However, if you go onto our second one here and you put the door on the left, you still can make an airlock. They won't be able to get in your base. However, they can get inside of the actual airlock itself and get a little bit deeper. Moving on to some decent grub spots when it comes to Oxium's gas station. If you take this back entrance here, open up the door, head over to this ladder, make your way up, then run all the way to the end of the building here. You can see these bushes right here. Now, just below it is a fence. If we land on top of it, it will be pretty damn hidden. And considering we are in a yellow and red hazmat, you're still pretty invisible. And if you pair it with, say, a kick hazmat or any green sort of skins, you're going to be even more hidden. So wait for someone to finish their poor recycling run and yeah, take them out, as long as they go from the back entrance. For grub spot number 2, if you head over to your local mining outpost, you want to come in and head towards this yellow forklift. You want to make sure that the crate that normally spawns here is completely clear and looted. Jump on behind the forklift, is a little bit of a squeeze. And if you crouch here and jiggle peek, you will have a clear view to the recycler. If you get yourself a compound bow, charge up, wait for someone to finish recycling or just get there and take them out. One of the spots where most people are just not going to be checking. Also, if you manage to hear someone recycling in the mining outpost, if you're already on the outside of the building and can see this window near the tyres, you can very simply jump up and quickly take your enemy's loot. Now for the last grub spot, we've got the harbour. Most of the time, a lot of people will come to recycle here and be checking every corner around them, but not exactly the roof here. If you get a friend or some random player that also wants to grub to stand on these tyres for you right here, you can jump on up and do this easiest jump ever to camp at the top of the building, and when you hear someone recycling, you can crouch on over and take them out. In Rust, headshots are extremely important. With normal weapons, if you hit a headshot, you will get a 2x multiplier. So if you look at the acre here, the damage is 50. So if you used to get a headshot on this fully maxed health player, you will one-tap them if they're naked. And obviously for the body, you'll just deal them for 50 damage. When it comes to bows, they do have a 1.5x multiplier, so it will take 2 headshots to take a naked out. However, the main tip here is when it comes to any shotguns. You do not want to aim for the head. If you aim for the head, you're only getting a 1.25 multiplier, and of course, shotguns, unless it's a slug, have a spread. And obviously, aiming for the head is much harder than aiming for the body. So always just keep in mind that when using the shotgun, do not really aim for the head, aim for the body. You're going to hit more pellets, and it's just an easier time for you. If you're a new player to Rust, sometimes using the bow with just the normal arrows can be a little trickier. As you can see here, I'm aiming to the right of his head, and it is going obviously past him. However, if we switch to bone arrows here, and if we aim to the right again, you're going to hit that headshot. So you can be pretty much way off and still hit your shots. Of course, we are losing some damage. The bone arrow is 40 damage and the normal arrow is 50. However, if you're hitting more, I think that's a pretty good trade-off. Pair the bone arrows with a nice little jump bow over a barricade just like that, and you'll see yourself improving Rust very, very quickly. Once again, if you are a new player, you can head over to servers like UKN, there's so many other ones out there, and just go to their targets area. If you do specifically come onto UKN and get into this targets area, you can open up your chat, use your cursor just to grab the pattern HUD here. This will bring up your recoil just on the right there, and it will tell you if your spray is actually good or not. Of course, if you crouch, this will make things a whole lot easier for you. And top right, it will give you the numbers if you're good or not, and going by that data, you can just tweak what you do. Of course, crouching is super easy. I would recommend standing up and trying to learn the spray because it does get significantly harder and you're a much harder target to hit when you're moving around and full stand. As you can see, my spray is clearly not great full standing. Please don't judge me, I am employed. As you can see in my inventory here, we do have a large medkit. Now, if you manage to get wounded or go down by a player or something, you can actually see that you have a 100% recovery chance on the top left there. You need to make sure that the medkit is in your hotbar, not your inventory, and this will 100% guarantee you to self-revive. Now, just in mind, what this doesn't work for is full damage. So if we take the damage right here, you'll see our recovery chance is actually 16%. So don't try falling down the cave bucket thing with a medkit in your hotbar thinking that you're going to get up, because it is not going to work. In nighttime, if you're trying to go hit a tree to farm, seeing the X can be kind of tough. With recent updates, they've made proximity in the darkness a little easier to see, but even after that hit, I'm barely seeing this X. However, if we change this to orange on the tree marker color section under accessibility, you can change a lot of things here. This makes the X way more visible, allowing you to farm in the night just that much easier. For these next 3 tips, we do have some easy jumps where you take 0 full damage. Now, if you find yourself on the top of launch site here, and if you head to this back right building and simply take a look at this wall right here, jump into it and hold W, and you will take the easiest free fall of your life with no damage. You can do the exact same thing if you walk over to here, hug this corner again, and there you go. You've made it from the top of launch site all the way to the bottom with no damage taken other than radiation. For the next jump, we do have airfield. Now, this one is great, as if you are, say, camping a locked crate, or you just want to make it down from this tower super easily with no sound and no damage taken, all you have to do is obviously come to the top of the tower, jump onto this railing, and you want to be aiming pretty much for just the corner of this pillar. We want to be doing the same thing as we did on launch site, just hugging the side of the wall pretty much. You do not need to press spacebar or anything like that. I didn't even press A, S, or D. I simply held W and went into the wall. Now, this jump is definitely the hardest one, but 100% the most fun. If you are at top of dome, you just got all the loot, and there's people after you. You want to make a very, very quick escape. All you want to do is come down to where this giant gap is here, run past it, down to these railings right here, and you will find this bar that edges out like this above these 3 silos. It is a full speed run and free fall. Now, what you want to be aiming for is the side of the silo right here. Not the top, not this. Literally just edge onto the side right there and you'll float straight down with no damage taken. And just like that, with the scariest jump of your life, you have escaped all of the people chasing you and you've got your good loot and you can make a quick run home. Next up, we're moving on to the many binds that you can have in Rust that will help you in PvP. Now, all you want to do is open up your console here, pressing F1, and type in this command on screen. All of the binds and commands will be listed in the comments or description, so you can copy and paste them from there. Now, what you want to be doing is where it says bind key here, you want to change this key to your key of choice. So I've got mine bound to C, so I press enter there. And now you can easily, by pressing your bind, swap which hand your gun actually goes in. Now, this is really, really good for if you are picking certain corners and, just want to be able to see a little bit more on the right. There you go. You can do exactly that, and vice versa for different corners. Now, this one isn't technically a bind, it is already in the keybinds default to Rust. However, you just need to find it and make sure you use it. I see so many people not use it in game, and that is the hover loot. If you go into the settings here, you can just type in for whatever settings you want, hover loot. Now I've got mine set to mouse free, make it nice and easy. You can have this to whatever you want, and this allows you to, when you're looting bodies, crates, instead of one by one dragging things, you can quickly just do that and move on. It may seem super simple, and a lot of people obviously know this. However, people just don't use it. I've seen it multiple times. Please make sure you're using that hover loot because it could save you in so many fights. However, all I will say with hover looting, it's not the best in, I'd say, combat situations. Obviously, if you're grabbing all of the loot, it is. However, if you're running up to an airdrop and want to be the first one to a gun, you want to pretty much just drag loot and grab that gun as quick as possible because someone's going to beat you to it if you're hover looting. That is the only scenario where you don't really want to hover loot. This next bind is for easy access to your combat log. Now, as you can see, after that fight, you can easily just press F2 and it will show you all of your combat log just there. Obviously, you may have to press it a couple of times just to keep updating it, but there you go. Easy combat log access, and you don't have to type in combat log every single time. Now, this is a brilliant quality of life bind. If you're on the run and you have no real time to access your inventory to make bandages, you can use this bind on screen. I've got it set to F, and every time you press it, as long as you've got cloth in your inventory, you will start crafting bandages. Sadly, in Rust, whenever you get into fights, sometimes your hit markers that pop up can be projectile invalids and do absolutely nothing to your enemy. There is no real way to actually fix this issue, but you can make it so that when you get an invalid, that hit marker does not pop up. The command you want to put in is this just here. It's hit notify.notification _ level 2. This will make it so that your computer will calculate the actual hit markers and not the server side. So at least now you won't get baited by you double headshotting someone and it not counting, and could once again save you in a fight. Now, this bind that you can see right here in my console, bind Q graphics FOV 60 plus graphics FOV 90, will make it so that you can zoom in and out with any weapon. Now, it is a small change, almost like having Optifine on Minecraft, not as intense. However, definitely makes things a little clearer and a little bigger. Once again, super helpful in PvP scenarios and really, really easy to use as long as you bind it close by. And for our final bind command, it will be this on screen. Now, without putting the bind in, you can upgrade this much of your base, right? You can upgrade the size, the walls. You won't be able to reach the foundation and you won't be able to reach the ceiling in this style of build. Now, if we go ahead and put our bind in right here, you can now jump up and easily gain access to upgrading both your foundation and ceiling. Of course, this could work in multiple different scenarios and is a great help. Now, if you want to put this back to normal, you can change the numbers here from 0.01 to 0.2, which is default. Moving on to settings. Now, these are super, super important. Let's say you're in a gunfight, you've just killed someone and their gun drops into all of this grass and pretty much does this. It can be pretty hidden. You're not seeing it too well. Obviously, if you can get close, it's pretty easy. But in certain scenarios, if it's darker, you just won't be able to see the weapon. So if you go into your settings here, go into the search or head over to graphics and scroll down. And then what you want to do is turn on grass displacement here. Now that, as you can see already, makes a giant circle or square around your weapon, making it so much easier to find. Now, for our next setting, if you come into areas like this abandoned supermarket and your object quality is set to 200, you're not going to be able to see through anything here. Now, what I mean by that is if we change object quality down to 0, you can see straight through these glass panels. Now, the crazy thing here is if we head to the top, yeah, you cannot see down whatsoever. So you definitely have an advantage over people if you have your object quality setting down. Obviously, things will not look as great in the game, but this is kind of broken. Now, the next setting here is located in the graphics tab. If we go down to shadows and change the max shadow lights to 0, this will allow you to see campfires just like this or any sort of light sources. If we actually move this up to 2 or 3, it will go back to being pitch black dark. So always keep your max shadow lights on 0 there. just so that way if anyone is door camping you or door camping a certain base that you're running past, you can see them much easier. Okay, this setting will help you with your PvP. If you head over to your options, user interface, and scroll down to crosshair here, you're going to want to turn one of these on. So here's a simple red dot. I always recommend a dot personally myself, as it's just less bulky on your screen. Of course, you can customize this to exactly the way you want it. Now, a quick tip: if you do record videos like I do and don't really want the crosshair showing on the recordings, the main thing I suggest is not use the in-game crosshair. Maybe use a monitor crosshair that you have. But if you don't have a monitor crosshair, you can use software which is not bannable at all, called Crosshair X, which will allow you, once you launch it up, to have your own personal crosshair that you want without it showing up on OBS. Of course, you can see it right now because I'm recording my screen, but if I switch to game here, I currently can see it and you cannot. For this next setting, I will be demonstrating first the default here. So if we blow up this wall, as you can see, there's lots of debris all on the ground there, which could cause lag stutters and just visibility blocking. We don't really want this at all. You can go into your settings here and go to max Gibbs and turn this all the way down to 0. Now, sadly, this isn't going to change too much. You're still going to see a good amount of drops, which you don't want. So if you open up your console and type in this command right here, effects.maxgibbs space -1. There we go. So now that has actually changed your settings to even lower than you can on this slider. And if we put our C4 on, you'll see now when we explode it, there's going to be no debris whatsoever. So much better for your frames and much better to see people quicker than they see you. Moving on to the next section of tips, we have building tips. Now, this one is personal preference, as it could be seen as somewhat slower. So if you're building your base and you want to upgrade the walls a little bit quicker. Okay, so you've got your base that you want to upgrade, and now this is technically the quickest way to do it. However, you do have to throw out the wood that you have in your inventory and only have the material in your invent that you want to upgrade. So all you do here is upgrade like normal. As you click stone, you want to hold left click. Now, holding left click, you can now just look at the thatch that you want to upgrade and tap right click, just like this. This building trick, I would say, is unique for, let's say, a clan builder or someone that's about to spend a good amount of time building. However, if you have multiple building plans in your inventory, you can actually have these set to whatever piece you want here. So for my first one, I got the foundation. Second, I got the wall. Third, I got the door, and then the ceiling on the fourth. So instead of having to use the scroll wheel here, it's a bit quicker. Now, when raiding, you will see that when this sheet metal door breaks, you are unable to place another sheet metal door down instantly. You have to wait for this annoying piece of wood to disappear. However, if you actually have windows there instead, well, the door you cannot place instantly, the window you can. We have multiple triangle foundations and the ability to place one more roof triangle after we place our box down. So we get the box down first. You want it so the corner of our box is ever so slightly coming over so we can access it when we place down our next triangle, just like this. And you can access it just easily. Now, obviously, it's not exactly invisible as you can see the corner. However, if you do own the bamboo skin, you can make this slightly more invisible. I think I did a much better job on this one than I did this one. And of course, you can skin these to green if you own the sheet metal building skin pack. Here is a super simple trap-based design. We've got all of this wallpaper set up in here in our makeshift base. You can get creative with this, but for a demonstration, this is how I'm going to do it. Obviously, everything upgraded around you to stone other than this wall right here with the wallpaper covering the twig. Obviously, from the side, you can see it, but from the inside here, other than the top, the average player is not going to know that. They're just going to be thinking about all your loot. If you furnish it enough in there to make it look like it has something, they will easily walk in and be blasted by the shotgun trap that is right behind this twig. Here's another tip for shotgun traps. If you are placing your shotgun traps like a list, like a normal person really would, this is definitely not the right way. As most people, if they're checking for traps, they will place down a thatch just like this, walk over and check, okay, I'm not going to drop down. Pretty obvious, right? If we take a look over here onto our next drop down, do the same exact thing, you can see here, okay, there's no shotgun traps, we're good to go down. Most people will think they're clear, have a look, and nope. These things are placed in a much better position, practically invisible, no way to really detect them until you're down here with the shotgun shells in your face. One of Rust's past updates, if you place a foundation over bushes, they disappear. completely gone. It's actually quite a nice feature. If you manage to live around an oasis, just like this in the desert, these bushes here, well, they do not disappear when you place foundations. Not one at all. So these are actually perfect for placing down turrets and spooking off everyone near your base. Here's a quick tip for all you engineers out there. If you want to make your wires snap to corners, you can hold shift just like this and it's a perfect line. This also works sideways. Also, if you want to hide your wires, if you want to bring them low down just like this, hold shift again and now use your scroll wheel. These will pretty much put them down into the foundations, making them close to invisible. This is my absolute favorite one. You can actually place multiple different items on top of external stone walls. As you can see, we've even got shotgun traps up here, small boxes and furnaces, and this will most definitely stop raiders from getting over your walls, as it is just not possible to climb. You can take this a step further, and if you get yourself a huge wooden sign, they can't even place ladders on your walls, not at all. So these two combined, no one is going deep on your compound. So we mentioned hover looting earlier. Now we're going to take that knowledge, and what we need to do, let's say you've made a play, you've just killed someone, you're basically naked or you have bad armor on, and if you want to instantly put on the armor that they are wearing, if you hold down Alt on your keyboard and then hover loot, that armor will go straight onto you. If you play high pop servers, launch site recycler can be quite daunting and arguably impossible to use because you're probably going to get grubbed and it's just a bit of a nightmare. However, to make this a little bit safer for yourself, if you grab some wood barricades here, you can actually place them directly behind the recycler, just like this. No need for grass, just a weird corner glitch. You can't place it anywhere else. Can't even place it on these curbs like this. At least this way you can feel a little more protected. Using the vents, you can get to this side of large oil rig. Now, this is directly under the red room, where our lock crate and all of our loot is. What you need to do, once you've cleared your scientists, got through the vent and got to this point right here, you can easily jump up on this propane, look up, and you can actually get info of who is inside here. So we can see our player model right there. Now, here is the best thing. If we go up and have a look down, they cannot see us whatsoever. And now the next best thing is if you get yourself some Molotovs, throw it in this corner right here. We can see that these nakeds are actually taking damage through the floor. Kind of insane. Very good grub spot. As we know, the robot makes quite a lot of noise. From the top of rig, you can hear this thing. However, if you want to get onto rig sneaky mode, you can tap W just like this. You'll be a tiny bit slower, but you're not going to be making that awful noise and no one can hear it from the top of rig. Now, this is extremely situational. If you're being chased down and you know you're going to die, or you have a lot of farm on you, but you want to go counter the raid that you just heard, best thing you can do if you really don't have access to go back to your base is grab yourself a little wood box and find the closest node. You can place these so they're ever so slightly just peeking out of the node, just like this, if it's a last ditch attempt to store some loot and go counter that raid that you want to go to. Now, earlier when we spoke about the binds and that you could switch your hand, if you did actually use that bind, it is really, really good if you're using flame arrows. This works on all types of primitive weapons, crossbows, bows, compounds. As we've got a flame arrow in here, this can work. As you can see, when we aim down sight, the flame can be a bit distracting to, where you want to shoot your target. Simply, if you press switch hand, this flame, for some reason, just disappears. For this next tip, this is a bit more if you're later in the game. Let's say you're absolutely loaded. You've got all these unloaded guns that you just want to organize into your boxes quite nicely. If you take all of these unloaded weapons, you can head to an auto turret here, open it up, make sure it's preloaded with all of the right ammo, and simply hover loot this all in. And just like that, we have just loaded 30 AKs within seconds. Now, I'm sure if you're not new to the channel, you will know this section here. This is going to be the last bit of the tips and tricks. This is DLC and skins. Sadly, these are all over the game and they do help quite a lot. I'll do a very, very brief skim over this as I have made videos on this before. However, the main new one is this right here, the workbench. We cannot pick it up, as you can see. Even with TC privilege, it says it has an attachment, and this is how you do it. And now that that is on the side of the workbench there, you can place down a box. And people that have no idea about this will just not know how to remove the workbench level 3. Another tip is to always have any doors with, let's say, a window at the front, as it is a great anti-door cap method. We have these rocking chairs here. This is from the Frontier DLC. The good thing about these is if you take a look on the crafting here, you do need a workbench level 1 as you do with the chair, but there is no blueprint needed. So this is the easiest 100 comfort that you will ever get. If you are a skin enjoyer and you have quite a few and you want to skin your items really quickly, all you have to do is put the item that you want skinned in, make sure you pick the skin that you want for all of the items. Once you've done that, you can go through and pretty much hold shift and hover your items into the repair bench and they will insta skin for you just like that. And of course, this is another tip, I guess. It's pay to win skins. They exist. They're rampant. This one being the absolute best, I'd say, forest kit. Way too expensive. There's budget versions. I'm not going to cover this too much as I have videos out there that I've made myself covering budget skins, the most expensive skins. Go check out my channel just to see all of those. The last skin set I will mention will be the jungle pack, as it just is that OP. You do get the barrels, the wicker basket, the path bamboo shelves, and the wall shelves can make an extremely good loot room just like this. You can fit perfectly in between the small boxes here and get easy access to all of your barrels. Now for our last and final tip of the video, it is going to be the boogie board. Of course, still DLC themed. You get this from the Sunburn DLC. This thing is actually amazing. It's quieter than a boat, faster than swimming. What makes this thing even better, if you slow it down and then jump back on, you can actually use this just to med while on the boogie board, because if you was to be swimming over here with flippers, you just cannot med in the water. It doesn't work like that. But stand on here gives you a chance to med quickly and carry on with your swimming. Hopefully you guys learned something from this video. I definitely could have made 100+ tips. However, that would take an extreme amount of time, and if I wanted to fit it into say 20 minutes, I'd have to make it extremely fast-paced and brain rot type video. And personally, I don't like editing stuff like that. I can. If you guys want it, I will definitely do it. Just let me know in the comments. Personally, I just like explaining things a little bit more thoroughly, other than just quickly gliding over the topic and moving on. But that's just me. If you guys want to see anything specifically made on Rust, just let me know in the comments. And if you did enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe and like. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.